SheerLee here with Sirius Dallas Moon. This is Mars Hour. Where is it? Yes, Midheaven conjoining Ketu, but Midheaven already 12 degrees Virgo, and the ascendant is on Lilith in Sag. Interesting. Jupiter at 19 degrees retrograde in Cancer. Mars and the Sun are still in an intimate confrontation at 21 degrees Capricorn, and Mercury is applying to oppose Jupiter. So I've talked about the darkness that needs to be purged, and I mentioned that it is because the East is rising that we see all those dark things that need to be addressed so that something can grow that has a foundation. Which is why right now we see that the Bolshevik Revolution was funded by the Standard Oil, the Rockefeller Standard Oil, that had an agenda, and how it was extortion cults that permeated both the petrodollar and the Soviet Union, um, and how the norm of uneducated women um, permeated and was a method to control society that created a lose-lose-lose for everyone. Um, but I also don't think that the West is as falling as we believe it to be. Okay, in the United States there is an American companies that are doing rare earth minerals refineries, and even attempts to produce rare earth minerals, so as to have sovereignty in the face of the rare earth minerals of China. And meanwhile we see all those weird things. Okay, whether it's ice, whether it's um, things that happen in Europe, freedom of speech, and so on and so forth, um, and the uprising and upheavals. But another thing that is happening, another zone, is the continent, the big continent of Africa, where we see resistance to the 2030 agenda. Whether it was Kenya that 2 years ago removed diplomatic immunity for Bill Gates. Okay, it's about time that those who are benefiting from extortion cults, in the sense of those who are rubbing shoulders with those who run them, and I'm being so tender, yes, begin to have their diplomatic immunity removed, um, rather than trying to harm the diplomatic immunity of people who escape human trafficking. And by the way, people who escape any form of trafficking, any form of handler, any form of, if somebody asks you, for example, if you rent a place and somebody was trying to get you to do whatever, it's called human trafficking. So that's basically meaning that people have diplomatic immunity. Um, and that what a diplomatic immunity means, that if you need to steal food, again, I'm not talking about organized crime. I'm talking about if you need to steal food for yourself, or if you have committed a crime um, because you had to run from human trafficking, um, then basically you have diplomatic immunity. For example, if Bill Gates had his diplomatic immunity removed, one excellent way would be to cut all ties with extortion cults and expose them, and he would have diplomatic immunity doing that. This is why they take oaths of silence when those oaths mean nothing, those NDAs mean nothing, because they're tortured since childhood, and even the cloning projects. So you're even born into that. Um, some dissociated, some not. But I want to bring some good news. And so we see that um, the entire African continent is dealing with a lot of shadows. People are beginning, because of the rare earth minerals, people are beginning to talk about Congo more, um, simply for the traditions of, for the conditions of the mining, the desire to declare Congolese rare earth minerals as conflict minerals, which would be tremendous. It would, and of course, the United States needs sovereignty in the rare earth minerals to prepare for that move. um, Such a beautiful, beautiful landscape, and the people are working in slavery condition, and of course, there was a manufacturing of a civil war. Um, then this is where we see that finally Congo is getting some attention worldwide. In Somalia, not Somaliland, Somalia. Um, even the even the even the independence of Somaliland, okay, is an interesting. Regardless of the circumstances, it's an interesting development that I predict there will be more such developments, um, whether Sudan or other areas, Eritrea, um, and Somalia aborted child marriage, which caused the imams to look really funny. And then Somaliland had independence, so I don't know. Um, but in Senegal, according to Al Jazeera, there is a UN project that is a school of men. So they take men that are respected in the community and they challenge the norms regarding gender roles. To give examples that came from the video, it was, should I go and fetch water um, as a man? Would I look funny to the women when I come to fetch water as a man? Should I take my child to school without my wife? Um, and so those very simple questions where there were things that the man does and the things that the woman does um, contribute to a decreasing rate of infant and child deaths. So this is something good that the UN does in that context. And while Western men are red-pilled, okay, to extinction. Okay, this is we see that in other areas on Earth, the men begin to challenge previous norms that risk their families, and they begin to have better communication with their spouses, um, and that prevents child death. So this is um, a very important development, and the men meet the schooled by men that they respect. So all in all, very respectful, very honoring in creating a change in society that um, in a way that is not by jails or confiscation um, or punishment, but by a conversation and a cultural change that comes from within. So this is something that's very missing in Western culture. I can t- I cannot talk about Asia or Russia um, because I've limited exposure to that culture, and I will not take um, one person that became, I don't know, because of secret society as example on an entire society. So, um, but definitely we are missing that in the West, and whether in BIPOC or white community, it is simply missing. Um, I know for a case in my astrological community that if I would not stand 10 toes down that I don't want no Mormon talks around me, I won't have no case where a person replacing a current wife in a woman that maybe he thinks would be um, less feminist, sozusagen. And of course, whether standing to the White House or okay, or other types of conversations where men are seeking more complacent women, and I'm like, no, it's actually going the other way around, and um, and attached to it, even personally to the community, um, and this is also where um, we see that, and I said that 2 3 years ago. Okay, when in the elections where women had to choose between risking their womb medically to blue pill or having losing rights to abortion and Planned Parenting in red pill, and this is not about even Trump and Biden. So I said United States is losing its advantage over, and the advantage of United States had to do with women's rights. When I see BIPOC women broadcasting from outside United States because they had to leave if they could, then I understand that that my prediction was borne out. That the United States is, while having this rare earth minerals company that is promising and should have been the focal point. It should have been the focal point for both men and women, but those secret societies that permeate to treason cults and extortion cults and so on, they undermine society from within. And this causes depopulation. This causes women no longer giving birth. This causes child death. This causes kidnapping of children in the families where there were big families. Um, Homelessness permeating. Um, Forced labor, death camps, and something that's very, how should I say that? I would like to believe that that's un-American. And that affects all of us. I could be situated in Israel and seeing US graffiti, MK Ultra, MK Ultra South, and people stop peopling. And so when it was one or two people that were usually either hospitalized or whatnot, talking about um, certain agendas, then people thought that this was. But when people stop peopling, we can no longer ignore the classified projects budget that is by the people's money funneled to make people dependent on welfare. Okay? And prohibiting their human rights, food stamps, and so on and so forth. As a person that tried to run a business, not even a megalithic business, not a corporate, not a business that would be a competition to, I saw that this is beyond tragic, and I took a break from academia because of extortion calls that I was not participating in, and because of that, and I saw what happened to the people that did finish a degree and became a stable job in academia, and they stopped peopling. Everyone around them also says they stopped peopling Um, and for me, it's very painful to see. Um, and this is, and again, it's not about blame and shame. Well, there's rituals and all kinds of weird things. And I can understand the desire to not give up for the degree, not give up for this, but it's also, where do we stand for zero trafficking society, um, and if it's so much so that that affected what they project onto their environment, then this is showing me that they are active participant in extortion calls. Um, Now, all the while, in other countries, men begin to form better communication with women. They learn communication skill. They learn that a man too can go and fetch water and care for the child, and it's not gay. it's, it's not gay to be a father. They can be gay fathers, but it's not gay to be a father. um, there is no way with the phrasing that these things are always susceptible to whatever I say will be would be a lapsus, but or mishap. But this is where now the people are going to be perhaps envying the good relations and family relations and community formation in Africa. Yes, not all countries in Africa, of course, but if the UN does that in one country, they can do it in other countries as well. And the West is missing. The West is red-pilled and wondering why their bloodline does not continue. Um, and again, I can't talk about the East because I think it's up to Asian women to talk about what is life in their society, as single, as not single. Just the term that I heard from Asian women talking about leftover wife, which basically is a woman that did not marry when she was young, um, for example, because of mystery to women, or because she went and got education. And so if that interferes with a concept, or if that is seen as a leftover wife because a woman wanted to educate herself and have a life that is meaningful, that she can share with a man, and that's being seen as leftover wife, then I can see, as for a person from the outside, just hearing Asian women talking about the concept of leftover wife, whereas other women break the Asian women coming from Korea, uh, not North Korea, breaking the stereotype of the Korean husband that is the idyllic husband that is considering and caring and so on. And certain women say, okay, there's some good Korean men, and not everybody is that idyllic husband. We had that with the Italian men in the sex positive JDEG courses community with the aftermath of Me Too. Everybody was married to an Italian. Or friends in with an Italian. Eventually, I think they separated with my teacher, um, but it was the idealization of the Italian man as the Italian lover. So, or the Western man that think that Asian means submissive. why do you even want a submissive woman? I don't know. That all of you are kinky, like, or are you not able to have woman that is that has her own self? Um, it is um, again not judging anybody's kink, but to go Asia with the belief that people are submissive, where not at all, according to Asian women. Um, so this is something that yes, but I only know what Asian women say, and so um, yes. As for the Soviet Union, have Elvira completely dumbfoundingly exposing the entire dynamics of things, and it is because the Slavs rise and the Chinese rise and the East rise um, that when the West was rising, women began to be educated. That's a rising of society. And later they abolished the slavery, so also black women began to be educated and BIPOC women began to be educated. Maybe Asian women run to United States to get educated. um, but, however, it does challenge the fact, growth challenges our fundamental societal norms. For example, Israel crossed the threshold, didn't cross the glass ceiling of growth because the extortion calls were um, that were funneling the investment to yes, high-tech nation, but surveillance and targeting individuals is not something to be proud of, um, and so Israel did not cross the threshold, and now Israel is fighting for its existence not as a geographical country or which can be, but as a cultural center. Um, it's not the villa in the jungle that the guy that slept with 13 years old at Epstein Island. Ehud Barak coined the term villa in the jungle, I think, and and so the guy that coined the term villa in the jungle was kind of like in union with the Somali imams that go by, but because he couldn't have child marriages. It wouldn't work if he himself was not ritually abused. So, um, and speech related issues can be associated with that. So, that's life. Um, so, Israel is fighting for its cultural center, and yes, I can say that a lot of these things are missing because people are indoctrinated to think that's the best way to ruin society, probably. They're indoctrinated to think that depriving women of their rights or being red pilled, so to sagen, is going to preserve their society. Well, in fact, this is what causes society collapse. With the rise of the West, we saw the rise of individuation and human rights, um, at least being on the table. And once they were on the table, people began to litigate for them. Not everybody could, not everybody this. Of course, this is true. And this is also how United States is still undermined. I saw it 2-3 years ago. I saw, hey, United States is losing women's rights. It means it's descending as an empire. Um, by the way, a lot of the Chinese uh, um, algorithm was showing actually the women that divorced an emperor. So they know how to apply to the crowd. Then they were also showing a woman that had a harem, basically had a trafficking cult, yes. And I was like, no, no, that's not. It's not feminism in that way. It's not about exploiting young boys or siphoning their energy and so on and so forth. Um, and I can see that, okay, that there are many things right now in the changing world that that attunement is important. Okay, and um, and yes, for example, the I still wonder if Camel funded the cigarettes burning the picture of Ali Khamenei. It is like why was there a now? When I see that and I see feminism linked in with, because behind every such picture in Israel, Hasbara, there was this, I mean, extortion calls. Before 7th of October, they were trying to recruit people to Hasbara. And then midway into the war, they stopped doing Hasbara because they saw it's not. Um, now, it's called, those pictures are called Tmunat Nitzachon, basically a victory picture. And even in demonstrations, when they teach how to demonstrate, people are looking for this victory picture, and it became a concept. Now, when we have funding for that victory picture, or the so-called victory picture, I mean, Ali Khamenei was not exiled; is still there. Um, and if we take by the new internet there, let's just say there are certain things that on level of women rights still need to be updated, um, which can cause this demonstration to fail. By the way, okay, it's that important. But if I see, let's say, probably some cigarette company behind this so-called picture that's supposed to be a symbol, I don't know if that's a symbol. Burning the face of a leader, where if we ask ourselves what was uh, um, behind the 1979 revolution, probably it was the aftermath of 1973, where there was the oil embargo and Iran gave oil to Israel, which of course pissed off the West, and they unwested Iran. So Iranians know that, Israelis know that. Um, this is why we have missiles coming from Iran dropping on the very building in the Israeli hospital where Lilach, that was ritually abused in psychiatric hospital in Soroka, jumped to her death from, evacuating the building so no casualty to human life, um, and of course opening a new hospital which fit with their own interests, but a missile coming from Iran. And on the other hand, missiles killing families. By the way, families that live in relatively new real estate. So it's still, um, yes, it's still, those are the intricacies. Those are the intricacies from within those societies, um, and and basically the Shah was already too religious before 1979 revolution. Um, so if that was basically, it was basically avenging, turning Iran into Iran was avenging Israel. Basically, but as they see that they want to take over the oil in Iran and the nukes, then the so-called fund the feminist revolution with cigarettes that were not really contributing to the endocrine system. And we see how economy plays into the branding of a social revolution quite well with the Iranian case. And keeping it as burning the face of the leader. Again, I don't know how useful is that. I don't know. In fact, the Mormon society, which Musk that gave the internet for free when the internet fell, was not really supportive of women either. And Musk is not Mormon, but he was affected for his quite big family by Mormons. And um, and those were not all volitional birthings. When in Mormon society, they're not. So the Saturn-Neptune meeting is Mars return for Elon Musk, and it will be tested in the sense that people expect women's rights. If he funded a revolution, funded the internet when the internet collapsed, of women's rights in Iran, this is what the revolution is about. So women rights. So people expect Musk to deliver women's rights, particularly around fertility, abolition of extortion codes, of ritual abuse, trafficking codes, abolition of trafficking codes. So actually, I remember with Tesla that the Swedes did a hunger strike when something in Tesla was not working well. So they're gonna expect him to deliver women's rights, and that's something to take into consideration. NDAs-based currencies, which I literally heard, and people, that's not currency. That's extortion code. No matter what frequency. Um, and all of these things missing in the West, all the while, men are learning to communicate and have better relations and enjoy their experiences as fathers more in certain African countries. So also good things are happening in the world, and we can see the design. The design for Africa is one design. A design for United States is one design, is another design, and again, collapse of societies begin with abolition of human rights. Rise of society begins with human rights and women's rights, which is I used to say, why do we need feminism? It's not like human rights. I was like, what is l'homme, SheerLee? What does l'homme mean in French? They didn't. Yes, that's men. Oh, okay. Then I get. Do we actually have to say women for having the rights of people? Apparently, yes. That's so bizarre. And again, like I said, it reached all the way to my community where I had to stand 10 toes down to Mormon talks about replacing women um, when the woman is not complacent with. Um, and when it addressed me, I said, I'm 7 times worse of that woman and that woman. 7 times more women rights, 7 times more abolition of ritualism and extortion cults, 7 times more abolition of slavery. You want to be with me? Okay, that's what it entails. Show me that you abolish extortion cults, abolish slavery, and then yes, but also we have to be compatible. So we wouldn't lose housing, particularly not for real estate giants. Housing ideas for children. Okay. Um, if I'm staying in my lane, not logging on to X, not because X is a bad platform, it's a great platform, but Moonakshatra is not compatible between me and Elon Musk. So I don't want either of us to lose ideas or housing or children, God forbid. And so I think it is fair to um, allow people their own territory. Um, yeah. Transparency, by the way, around that would be amazing because I know that everybody's now fighting for certain regions and whatever astrocartography considerations. Seeing the astrocartography of Donald Trump and Greenland was devastating to me because it's Rahu, but it's Rahu 22s, and so this could increase chances of assassination for Donald Trump. And yet it's his Rahu. My Rahu is also the ruler of the ruler is ruled by 22 Mars, so it's a different thing that's not to like it is the same theme in a different expression, and I'm just like wow. So okay, I care about ethical mining and so on and so forth, but I also had the privilege to be born to my mother and not in other types of situations, regardless of the parents. Um, so um, so in that respect, I stay humble, meaning I don't judge or blame, but I don't do the Mormon talks of humbling oneself, because that would be given my privilege to the hands of those who deprive people of having rights. So my privilege should be used to install human rights rather than to abolish human rights. Um,